Greetings, race walking fans, and welcome to part two of my Wednesday edition of the Big Deep podcast. Before I bring in tonight's special guest, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page where you can see all my latest and greatest content. Got more coming, not just here, but hopefully in the next few days. So hope to bring that your way. And if you remember a few weeks ago I interviewed America's race walking couple, Robyn Stevens and Nick Christie, en route to the Tokyo Olympics. Well, they just got back from competing at the 20K race walking at the Tokyo Olympics. Even though the Olympics took place in Tokyo, the both 20K, 50K race walking and the marathon took place 500 miles north in Sapporo. And believe it or not, the weather didn't change all that much. So joining us this evening, Nick and Robyn. Guys, how's your sleep schedule?
Uh,
It's a bit rough, but I think that's as much our fault as it is the time change.
yeah.
I think the
I'm feeling a little bit zombie-like.
I think the adrenaline has kept going for the last week, right?
Yeah, and we really have nowhere to put it because we're on our forced, like 2-week break or so, before we're even doing anything.
Yeah, I'm usually pretty good about it, but right after my race, we had to fly out early the next morning back to Tokyo from Sapporo. And normally, like, I think a lot of people experience this, like, right after their race, it's kind of hard to sleep. So I only got like maybe 3.5 hours of sleep that night just because of the adrenaline from racing earlier in the day. And then we had to get to the airport. And then as soon as we got back to the village, we had to pick up our closing and opening ceremony outfits and make sure those fit and then pack between the three of us, that's 6 bags, like 3 different, make sure we had like all the bags that we had. So because the next morning, and then get ready for closing ceremony, because the next morning we were going to have to fly out super early to get to our airport to get home. So it's like it was just like 0 to 3 hours of sleep
I
for
felt
3 nights in a row. And then we were in the back of the plane. So then it was just like, we didn't really sleep very well, or I did. He slept pretty good. I didn't sleep at all for the 10-hour plane ride. So it's kind of just messed up my internal clock a bit.
I'm just saying I've been on a few airplanes where you try and sleep and you can, and sleeping in coach might be one way of passing the time, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
I usually just use I catch up on all the movies I miss out, on, and don't have time to watch when we're in our training mode. So I 4 movies got me through that flight.
Yeah, I kind of I had pretty poor quality sleep on the plane, but the flight felt really short. But I felt really bad for the marathoners because like Abdi and Galen, they were I think they left the day of their race. They had to leave.
Oh gosh.
Or maybe
after waking up at like
after waking
3
up.
a.m.
Yeah, so they moved the marathon. I don't know if they moved the men's marathon an hour early.
No, the men's marathon was at 6 p.m. here, 7 a.m. in Sapporo.
Okay,
yeah.
So the women, they moved the marathon an hour earlier. So then they did that like a few hours after the women's 20K race. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to move the women's race an hour earlier." So then all the staff there, man, they had to be so tired for the women's marathon because our guys were like they were exhausted, and then you had to the schedule required them to be up by like 3 a.m. as it was to like get to the course and everything. So then they had to get up like another 30 minutes earlier. So it was like 2:30 a.m. just like to get the logistics and start setting up all the, bottles on the course and like set everyone up, and like make sure that like Molly and Alphine and Sally just had the ability to like perform well, because like if you didn't have like your aid people like on point, like it was going to be a severe disadvantage. And our staff did an amazing job at
They're really nailing the
yeah,
aid.
just nailing the aid. And I'm not sure how the marathoners felt, but like they did a great job for us, and it was probably the best we've had. Like that isn't someone who personally does it for us regularly, but like for a U.S. team, it was like it was very good. The staff was amazing.
Yeah, not just for your race, but I think all the staffers did an amazing job with little to no sleep, with everybody needing those fluids, because if you didn't get your bottle, you were not finishing well.
Oh yeah.
If finishing.
Yeah.
Our staff actually felt bad because our our aid table is right next to the Ukrainians. Was it Ukrainians or which one was it?
Ukraine.
Yeah, and she felt so bad for their staff because they kept missing their drinks. So they would see the girls' faces as they would go by, after me, and they would just be just devastated because they would reach for their drink, and then their staff member, they would say, would like kind of pull their hand back, so then they couldn't reach it. So then they were missing their drinks every lap.
That was in the race walk.
That was in the women's race walk.
That's amazing, because at the World Team Champs, the Ukrainian team always has the best aid, where they're like throwing 6 bottles at someone across the course, and then it's just so fluid. So I can't believe that Ukraine was so bad in that race.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they don't practice with the women.
Okay, so coming in the race, obviously you knew heat and humidity would be a factor in Sapporo. How did you adjust yourself to the demands of Japan?
Well, so I raced first, so that was good. So we had been training up in Sacramento, like out in Vacaville, where it was 110 degrees. So maybe there wasn't humidity, but like the real feel and just that general feeling of the temperature was very similar. So like that definitely helped going in. And then fortunately I raced earlier, so then we were kind of able to look at like a lot of the times and be like, well, the men who race typically well in the heat, they were this many minutes off of their PBs. Like around 4 minutes was like a pretty general mark to like look for. And then it was like, if you were having a bad day, it just got worse and worse and worse. But like if you could keep in that 4 minute mark, then you're going to be pretty solid. And like we told Robyn that, and then she was able to she can talk about her race plan.
I basically just did, he was our, he basically came back, and we looked at all the men's times and noticed how significantly slower they are off for like what they normally would do. And so then we just calculated out that I'll just start off more conservatively than I had originally planned. Like I had planned to start off the race conservatively anyway. But I decided, based off of looking at how the men did, to start off ultra conservatively, like just literally at the back, and then just work my way up. And and I just took 4 minutes off of my 133 PB and started from there. Started at that, like 4 minutes off, and started at that pace. So that helped. I actually thought it felt way better there than in Sacramento. I thought it was way hotter training in Sacramento. But the humidity was the trick. Like that, I hadn't normally had too fast of races in a lot of humidity, except for in Lazaro. I had a really great race in 2019 where I took 6th. And so I was kind of hoping for a faster slow time. I would have liked to be in the 136 ballpark, but at the slowest, but that wasn't really my goal. My entire goal was just to keep my body temperature under control and not die, like make sure I keep my like my health intact. And I felt really good because the aid, what they did, so like what Nick was doing in his races, he found that we had bought the tons of neck rags. And normally we've only used like 1 or 2 in a race or something when we do the 50K. But we bought one that we could switch out for every lap or every other lap. And our team, our USA management squad, were so on like point with that. Like Kim would hand me the neck with the neck rag with the ice, and Clifton would hand me my electrolyte. I used Pedialyte, which is what I used in at the Olympic trials. And I figured, okay, that's perfect, because if you use Pedialyte Plus, that's what people use for, like, if they get, sick or anything like that, to replace and balance their electrolytes. So I figured, okay, that's going to ease my mind, because I know it's going to be balancing what I need. And so it's like every lap I had a sip of that, a little bit of that. I grabbed there's like 3 different hands, like you're grabbing everything. And the system just worked out perfectly to where I didn't feel miserable from the heat whatsoever the entire race. Like I just felt totally comfortable because I felt like we prepared correctly for it, and that the staff, because I was really nervous going into the race about how it was going to affect me physically later after the race. So having Nick going first, and then seeing how well the neck things worked, and doing it every lap, because I normally in a normal race we're not going to swing out that much, because it's going to slow, take some seconds off our time, and that could add like a minute or two if you're swinging out every lap. And I was taking aid every lap, as well as at the general aid. General aid, I would use the water, pour it on the spots that are key areas for keeping the body cool. And I felt like that worked really well, because it basically felt like way better than any training that we did in Sacramento as far as temperature goes, because of the cooling method, and then using the ice vest beforehand. And
yeah, we had like the best ice vests.
Yeah.
It was so they had a good system too there, where like you were able to stay pretty cool going into the race, which I think hurt some athletes in the race, because I think some of them, they got too cold, and then like once they took it away.
I think that's what happened with Percy.
Yeah, so like there were some people, I think, where that was almost a detriment, but then other people, I think, timed it really well. And that was something we got to kind of run through like each day, where it's like, oh yeah, you can actually wear your vest for another 20 minutes because they're not going to take it away, or stuff like that. So but we had our staff was great, and then they had like tons of extra ice vest bladders, so we were able to switch those out. And
we were practicing with that in the training leading up.
So just overall a solid.
Yeah, little details really help.
Yeah. A couple of things when I watched both races. One, I knew whoever tried to push the pace early in the races would be put it mildly, a dead man walking, or maybe a dead walker walking, because that was not a good. I don't know why anybody would push the pace early in that blazing heat and humidity, but some people just wanted the lead.
I think the marathon was the best example of it. Like, some people just have a time, and they're gonna be like, I'm gonna do this time, and then they don't, and then it like they don't think about anything else, and then it's just like, well, that's a bummer. And like the marathon, you had 30 DNFs, I think, as a result of that. And then the women's had, I think it was like 10 or 15 DNFs. So like the marathon was like the extreme example. The race walks, I think more people finished than didn't, than we were expecting. We were expecting a few more dropouts and some more DQs, but it was a fairly clean judging sheet for the most part. The women's race got pretty hit hard by the judges. So
I'm just saying, I remember a couple of red cards coming out like literally right at the end of the race, and I think it may have been I'm trying to think, the women's race, so like one of the medal contenders was ejected literally in the last couple of minutes.
A lot of drama.
Yeah, so Erica DeSena, who we spend a fair amount of time training with this year, she was on 2 red cards going into that last lap, along with Sandra Arenas from Colombia. who was also on 2 red cards, and then the girl behind him, Hong Lu, was also on 2 red cards going into that last lap. And then
Who was the defending champ?
And then the world record holder, Sun Yang, she was she had already been pit lane, so she already lost 2 minutes and was like off the pack. And then 3 of the 4 people in the top 4 had 2 red cards, and then we're looking at Erica and like I'm talking with one of the Australian coaches during the race, and he's like, "Oh no, I hope they don't do what I think they're gonna do." And they wanted those medals, and he said, like, the Australian coach was, I'm not gonna complain, because his athlete Jemima was she was sitting in like 5th place, I think, at the time. I think she got passed and got 6th, but at the very end. But like, he's like, man, all 3 of these girls could end up like getting DQ'd this last bit, or getting pit laned. And like, I felt so bad because Erica moved from 3rd place with the chance at 2nd to 11th place after the 2-minute penalty. And it was like, it was a bold move, but she wanted that big medal, and
She wanted the silver instead of the bronze.
Yeah, so like it was tough. And then Sandra Arenas, I think she was Colombia's first women's medal, one of their highest medals they've gotten in recent years, and just across events. And then it was
fun fact about her, she'd placed 32nd.
Yeah, she was 32nd in 2016. And then another fun fact about her, at Pan Am Games in 2019, Sandra Arenas, who got 2nd, it was so cold that morning. It was freezing as we were getting there. And then, it was raining, it was wet. And this girl kept on pulling down the window of the bus. And then another girl would shove it up and she'd pull it down. I think she was literally trying to freeze out the competition. She was taking Freeze the Kicker to the next level. But just employing some intense tactics, pre-race. But she was a cool victory, because like Robyn was saying, she had she was like 32nd, and she's been just killing it the last couple of years.
That might be good news for you, Robyn, because you were 33rd and Nick, you were 50th in your race.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just thinking 32nd in 2016 to a silver in Japan. So that means you'll get a silver in Paris, right?
We'll see.
Yeah.
We're kidding. So ultimately, I think just making the Olympic team and surviving the hardest race walking course I've ever seen in, I don't know what we call it.
Olympiad?
No, I mean, I don't know what we call those conditions in Sapporo.
Yeah,
it might have been, grills could have gone on the road with how hot it was.
Yeah, it was bad and good, because I think like that weather opportunity, like, for Robyn, she was going in with like, a PB that was like over 50th place. I think it was like 57th or something, like same thing for me. I was going in with the PB at like 58th or 59th position, like, of the 60. So like, the weather allowed a smarter athlete to maximize their position. And you saw that like with, there was a girl, Kasia, from Poland, and she like, she finished, I think it was 10th.
10th.
And so she finished 10th, and she was somebody not at all in that conversation, but she was very smart. And then same thing, like you saw, like David was he's been immensely talented, like in the 50K, and just an immensely talented athlete who just hasn't been focused as much. And then he like, he's been really focused this last year. And then he they had a great cooling plan. I don't know if you saw the satchel that they were wearing every lap. So they were it was such a good such a good idea that no one else thought of. But but yeah, he was such a good athlete. And then he was able to surprise a lot of people because of the heat, because 350 suddenly became a winning time. So it's like if you were fit and you were smart, then you could really place high. And like, we have our friend Ridian, he finished, I think it was 8th, and he had a PB in the race actually because he was really fit, and he was he just raced it smart enough to where like he was able to excel in his performance. So like stuff like that was really motivating for such terrible weather, because like for Robyn, like that gave her the opportunity. I think she had another 6 places, maybe 8 places, like pretty comfortably if she didn't have some issues at the at the aid station one lap.
Yeah, I picked up a couple cards.
I was going to say, I remember you picking up a couple cards early, and I'm like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is that I knew exactly how I got it and when I got it. And it was the aid station. A girl had cut in front of me as I went to go grab, and I guess as I was grabbing it and pouring it on me, the judge didn't like how I wasn't as perfect, and so I tripped a little, and so that's when I picked up the knee one, and then I think it was always at the aid station, so or at one of the aid stations. So I think it was just like because there was just so much traffic going in, and then we're like at the main aid station, we're grabbing like the neck thing. So we're grabbing the water with one hand, and then I don't know how Nick was doing it, but I was grabbing the water with one hand, or the electrolyte. So he was holding out both, and I'm deciding which one, and then grabbing the other one, the neck thing, with the other hand. But I'm trying to grab it with both because I don't want the ice to fall out, so that I can throw it around my neck and then tuck it into the bra, so like it's not covering up the Nike or the flag. And then that stuff you don't have to think about in a normal race, but in this one it's like, oh, I can't cover anything up, so I'm like like tucking it in, and then while I'm holding the electrolyte, and then taking that and then the water and pouring it on my head. So it's like when you're doing that, yeah, it's like you're so focused on trying to get, like I was more focused on trying to get just like the neck rag like tucked in, and then that it made sense to me. So it's like, oh, okay, I know how I got these. So because I could feel my technique the whole way, and I felt solid and really comfortable. So, but it was unfortunate because I didn't know I had them. I knew I got a yellow, but I thought, oh, it's a yellow card because obviously it wasn't on intentional. Like I'm not, usually you get a card if like you take 3 steps to intentionally improve, or like to help yourself improve your position. Clearly I wasn't, where I got those cards, it wasn't in any manner to improve my position. So it's just like, okay, like, but then I looked at, like, I didn't even notice until like maybe 10 or 12K. And I was like, oh, I have 2 red cards. And I was walking on 2 red cards for a while because I had gotten that first one early. And I knew exactly where, so that it was just like, oh, okay, well, I feel comfortable. I know how I got it, I know where I got it. But at the same time, I felt like I could pick off another, like what Nick was saying, like another about 6 girls. And I was targeting that. But then when the front pack went by, I started losing track of who it was that that was in the front pack, and who it was that I was, wheeling in. So I got a little discombobulated, and then it took me about a lap and a half to kind of like recalibrate, oh, okay, yeah, okay, this is who I'm targeting. And then I was just hoping I didn't lose anybody that had already passed, like they didn't, go back by. And I think there was only one person, and that was not Raquel, but from Spain, who had been pit laned. And then I got her back, but then it was just like, I could have gone for that next pack, but it was just, I only had 2 laps to go. And so there was just too much of a risk to, I had it in me, but it was just like, I already saw what happened with Erica De Sena and, the Chinese girl, and like when they were all going,
Laura, even.
and Laura, who I had passed back from Spain.
She has pretty solid technique, and then
so she was
all of a sudden it's like, wait, why is Robyn passing her?
Yeah,
like,
and
she's 129 girl.
Yeah, and she ended up coming in behind me, but So it's like when I'm going by her and, you know, like I have a few other girls that are usually sub 130 girls behind me. It was just like, you know what, I'm not going to risk it. Cause you know, you could get DQ'd the last 100 meters without any cards. So it's just like, I'm just not going to risk it. You know, I could have got that Indian girl in front of me, you know, but it was just like, nah, just this is good right here.
Yeah.
I was just saying, yeah. So one day,
That's what makes it so different though from running. Cause like,
I don't even know. Could you hear me yelling?
yeah, I could hear everybody.
Oh, okay.
So,
'Cause
I could hear everybody. I had a friend from Apple that I worked with in Silicon Valley that had moved to Sapporo 7 years ago, and he had come out with his wife. I could hear him. I could hear the staff. I could hear Nick. But yeah, I mean that's what I like about race walk though, is because it's like both fascinating to me and frustrating, because the difference between running and race walking is like you can give it your all out in running, and you're not risking anything other than you're just going to be really exhausted at the end. But in race walk, it's totally tactical too. Like you can't always like leave it on the track physically. You have to leave it on the track mentally instead, or like it just using that like just
well,
smart
yeah,
tactic.
and that was Erica. You know, she was she had a medal. She was gonna medal, like, but she wanted that extra. She wanted that higher medal.
Yeah, she
you
wanted
know,
the
and
higher
then
medal.
she left without a medal, and it was like.
And in any other discipline in track and field,
Yeah.
I feel like that's not race walk. When you give it your all out, it benefits you. But in race walk, it's like a fine line.
Yeah, like when I was in
it
college.
It can make the difference between third place and 11th place. Yeah.
Yeah.
well, third place and not completing.
Yeah,
exactly.
or not completing at all. But for Erica, it was 11th. You know.
Yeah, and that's what my coach had told me when we were in college, because my teammate Chavi and I, we were always neck and neck, and you know, she was like, hey, don't be an idiot and make sure you settle it before that last 100, before that last lap. Settle whoever's going to win that race, and then if one of you gets DQ'd, I'm going to be so mad. So like we would hit that point. We would be racing to the last lap. We'd be racing to the lap before the lap, because then it's like, well, whoever's in first, they get to take it, unless like we're really slow, because we just didn't want to ever risk getting that like disqualification, you know, in the last 100. And you know, our first championship, that's what ended up happening. The guy ran, literally ran, like he picked up 4 red cards in 1 lap, and then passed us the last 50 meters, and then he got, you know, tossed at the end, and then he picked up another couple red cards. So he got like a red card from every judge the last lap, and then, you know, we could have hung with them, but we're like, you know what, like we're gonna win right now, so let's just finish the order, you know, and then accept the result. And you know, that can be really difficult to do. Like incredibly difficult to just accept that result. And like there was one day, you know, like I know we've all had it, and I know I've seen it with Robyn, where like somebody's passed you or something, you're like, I could, like, if this was any other race, they would not be passing me right now. I would be ahead of them.
If I was running right now,
I would not allow this to happen. Like my fitness would not allow this to happen. But you're like, hey, that's the rule. That's the day, you know, like I didn't have good technique, or I don't trust my technique this last bit. So it's like, I can't do it. Or sometimes you feel it, you know, like, you know, when you're off the ground sometimes, and you're like, you know, this is too on the edge. Like I got to make sure I finish. I can't do this extra thing.
Yeah, I would think race walkers would know, okay, I know something's a little funky here. I know, okay, I can push the pace because my technique is on walk.
Yeah, and that's such a huge component.
Even like because I felt pretty good in Sapporo, so it's like there's even those times where like you can feel really solid, and you know you could go faster feeling still solid, but because there's that risk, it's just not worth it.
Well, and that's the thing too, when you execute a race very well, which Robyn executed a race like incredibly well. Like you get to the finish line and you look like Palmisano. Like Palmisano like put a clinic like the last couple laps on everybody. Like same with Stano. Like every time the Japanese were trying to like make a break, you know, like they just could not contest Stano. And he he covered every single attempt, and those guys get to the finish line and they look like nothing happened because they executed the race well within their fitness and they were ready to go, you know. So like Robyn was clearly in amazing shape when she went in, and she you know, she put in a solid race plan that like just allowed her to cross the finish line, you know, unfortunately feeling like she had more to give, but it's like maybe, you know, like it's hard to make that determination, you know, in any race, marathon, race walk, 1500, whatever, because like when you're in good shape and you execute, like it doesn't feel like you did anything, like it doesn't feel like you did anything, and you feel like you have so much more left. So
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Stana and Parmesan because to me it just seemed like both of them reached the end of the gear like the second part of the race, and nobody could match them. Like even the Japanese walkers didn't have anything the last few laps
yeah,
of the
I
race.
think if you saw the 50K, man, the Japanese walkers, I think, had immense pressure on themselves.
Oh yeah,
Like
Your
when you saw like
hometown.
Kawano and like some of
Mono.
those other guys in the 50K, they were seriously breaking down mentally. Like one of the guys was slamming the ground at one point because he just couldn't cover anymore, and he was going backwards, and like uh you know, they were the favorites going in. They're in their home country, and one thing I've always heard with Japan is the Japanese race fast in Japan. You know, that's like a rule. It's not an exception. They just race fast in Japan because in Japan nothing is more important than winning in Japan. So when they have their nationals, you could have world champs the next week, you know, but nationals for Japan would be more important than world championships. So like uh you know, just to make the Olympic team, you basically had to walk within 30 seconds of like the previous world record, you know, and that still might not have been enough. So like just for the Japanese guys to be on that team, they had to, you know, they had to perform so well just to get a nod on the team, better than anybody in the world. Just to be on the team was the hardest. That was literally the hardest team to make in any event in track and field.
Would
Was
that be
the
like
Japanese?
would
Yeah,
that be would that be like the U.S. 100-meter hurdle squad?
I think it was harder. It would have been like the U.S. 100-meter squad in like what, like 2012 or 2013 when you had like, or no, 2011 when you had Aries Merritt and all those guys running the world record every other meet. Like that's basically was the Japanese squad this year was the 20K team. You had to.
What's going on with the girls?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The women's hurdles. Yeah.
The women's hurdles.
The women's hurdles definitely.
Sydney.
Yeah. Yeah. The 110 hurdles because they're always
Yeah.
like. Yeah, it would be exactly like that. It was the men's 20K race walk was just incredibly difficult for someone to get on the team, and then once they were on there, like the pressure was huge. So like the defending world champion Yusuke Suzuki in the 50K, he turned it down because he was like, I'm not fit enough. Like I need to, like I don't rightfully have this position.
Even though his not fit enough is still like world record.
Yeah, his not fit enough would still be quite good, you know. So I don't know. I mean, maybe he was injured or something, but he said he wasn't fit enough, so he turned down the spot. I don't know any other athlete from any other country that would turn down their spot because they weren't fit enough. I mean, like so the level of intensity that they had going into that race was just like something that's hard to comprehend for I think anybody, and you know, it was like they still got silver and bronze, you know, like it wasn't like they didn't produce. But Stana, like he got pit laned in Doha, so you know he was up in that lead pack, you know, and then he fell way off in the Doha 20K. So like he just had a much cleaner race, and then he was able to hold on. And Paul Masano's been just consistently like a European medalist, and then you know top, you know, 4 through 6 finisher like consistently. So like she was just waiting for that breakout race, and
On her birthday, no less.
yeah, and the Chinese to kind of be a little off, you know, like the world record holder getting pinged with a penalty zone, the defending champion getting 2 red cards. And then where did Ki Yang finish? She like
She was the one that
no
got pitted.
no she didn't get pitted.
I
Yang got
mean,
pitted.
Kieyang,
QIE
Qieyang, seventh.
7th. Oh, okay, yeah. So she still finished. I mean, they went 4th and 7th, or 3rd and 7th. You know, like that was still a pretty good result. You know, all things considered. But you know, it just opened up perfectly for the women. Like it was a solid race, and the men's 50K was just like something else. And
Yeah.
devastating that event's gone.
Yeah, last time the 50K walk's gonna be at the Olympics. Doggone it.
Yeah, you know, I think it could come back. I mean, in 76, the 50K got taken out. And I think maybe we end up with like a couple years where like we don't have a 50K, but, you know, we get a push to bring it back and in the future.
Might it be like what golf, baseball, and softball have gone through, where they like come back, leave, come back?
Yeah, I think so, because like baseball won't be in Paris and softball won't be in Paris, but they'll almost undoubtedly be in LA.
Yeah.
You know,
If baseball and softball are in LA, there will be an investigation.
Yeah, they're on like an 8-year Olympic cycle, right?
Yes.
More or less. So like I think they'll end up in that Los Angeles Olympics, and then you know, it's interesting. It just kind of depends on where the events go. And I think if like the 35K goes really well, then like, you know, there's a great opportunity. Like right now.
No, it is interesting that they're not having the 50K in France when the world record holder is French in the 50K.
Yeah, well, he's retired. So,
oh, yeah.
And then they've got no one behind him. So, yeah. So I mean, it'll be interesting. But like right now, the women get another event. You know, maybe it cuts down the numbers a little bit because it's a mixed relay. But the women get a new event. You know, we get a relay, so you know maybe we'll get to like win a medal together.
Robyn and Nick, you pass. Can I have? How do you pass a baton? How do you pass a baton in race walking without being DQ'd?
You know, I don't know.
We're gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah, I don't know how they'll do that, but we're not really sure how it's actually gonna work. So that'll be interesting. I
guess it's like handing off the water.
Yeah, we're supposed to find out at some point, but no clue on what their system is going to be. I think they said like September, November sometime. They were going to have their meeting where they're going to discuss some of these details. But
yeah, hopefully discuss it before Eugene next year. Otherwise, we're all going to be befuddled.
Yeah, well, Eugene, we're having a 35.
Yeah.
So we'll
it'll be a 20 and a 35 for both men and women.
So actually, they set it up perfectly too, so we can double again. So.
Yeah, I think Eugene will be. A lot of people will be doubling because I mean, unless your name was Johnny Miller-Weibo or Stefano San Triplin, and nobody really could double or triple.
Well, this schedule just didn't allow it in Tokyo. Like it was weird. There wasn't like, it wasn't conducive, and unless you were someone who was just in Stefan's shape, like it was not something that was like necessarily ideal to like try and pull off. But
well, like think about it. Like if we wanted to double on the 50 and the 20K,
it was back-to-back days. Like
yeah.
and if the women had that option, like
it would have been the same day.
It would have been the same day. So like it would have been, you couldn't have done it. So next year it's actually the 20 and the 35. I think are going to be a little bit more difficult to make, just because you're going to have you're going to have 10 to 15 people who are going to be doing both, and that'll definitely make things interesting in qualifying.
Yeah. So did you guys see any events? Because I know one event a lot of people watched, particularly not in Sapporo, was the women's marathon where Molly Saito got a bronze medal, became the third American woman to medal in the Olympic marathon.
So I didn't get to see any live because I had to fly out the morning of the women's marathon. So I got to see it on the TV, but I didn't get to go because we had to fly out. But Nick got to see me
Yeah.
because I was the day after, so he was able to come out as a coach, like with his coach, like in the coaching box. But
Yeah.
So
because
did
my
you
coach was with the Spanish Federation, so he was with
He was at the aid
doing that, so it
station.
actually worked out. But I wasn't able to watch any event live because we weren't allowed to be, like, I couldn't be on his course. It would, because they only had 2 buses. Same thing with the marathons. You only had 2 buses to get there, and then once you're there all day. Like, if I
Yeah,
have to race the next day, then it would be
it'd
bad
be
to be
too
standing in
tiring.
that sun.
Yeah.
Um,
It was so hot there too.
um,
But like for the women's race, so we had been discussing this before the event because we actually didn't know our flight back.
mhm.
So like we were getting our flights.
Yeah, we wouldn't even know our flight till like the
We would
day
know it
before.
like, 9 hours before we were flying out, basically. Like like because we were getting our flight information like that, that evening before we were flying out that morning of. So we had an idea we were leaving the morning of the women's marathon, but we weren't sure. Uh, there He wasn't sure if it was going to be later or earlier. So like
It was most likely earlier.
yeah, so they were looking actually at the potential of us doing the aid station for the marathon because we only had so many people, and then that there was an amazing hassle just getting their personal coaches there.
Yeah.
So like Molly Seidel's coach and same with Alphine and Rep's coach and everybody like they had incredible difficulty just getting there because the requirements on like a personal coach versus like an Olympic accreditation and the personal coach's accreditation were like different, and they allowed different things. So like you needed separate charter flights, or you needed like you couldn't ride on certain buses, and like to keep the bubble intact. So it was like much more difficult for like certain groups to get in, certain groups to not get in. So
and it would have been harder for Allie because she's got that newborn, right?
yeah, so she was actually saying once they got that sorted out, it was actually pretty easy for her and her husband to get there and with the baby. So like because they had known all that like way ahead of time, they were able to kind of get that stuff more sorted out and get the right phone
In
calls and
advance,
stuff.
yeah.
And she said it was actually a little bit easier than maybe it was put out to be in the media. um Still stressful, but like
but expected stress.
but expected. But then like the personal coaches, they literally didn't know until they were flying out if they were even going to be allowed to like get to Sapporo. so so some of the people they were flying, like I think Molly's coach and like all them, they were like the day before they're supposed to fly out from to Japan from the US. They're like, hey, should we even like get on our plane because like we don't know what the ticket deal is to get up to Sapporo or like stuff like that. So it was our Tyler Noble, the logistics like team manager on the Sapporo Marathon race walk group, was doing a phenomenal job like trying to organize all this stuff. Like he was always on his phone.
He slept.
Yeah, I don't know if he slept at all, especially like with the hours you had to do for the marathon and the race walks and everything. So like he lucked out we didn't have a 50K guy because then that gave him like one extra like day where he could sleep in, or one day where he could sleep in, so like it was
just one day
yeah. Yeah, so it was a mess, and he probably didn't because he had to get all the stuff sorted out for the marathon coaches because they got him like the night before, I think. So it was a total mess. But yeah, we would have had we been there, we would have been working the aid tables because we were short on people because each group only had, I think we had a decent sized people, but we only had like 12 people there, something like that.
Three, 6, 9 because there's only
And I think the men's marathon includes
8 athletes.
6, 7, 8 athletes.
And,
8 athletes and 3 coaches, and then a medical.
Yeah, 4. So we had 12 people total there, and then the people racing the next day can't do stuff. So it was it was a bit of a hassle.
Yeah, I think it's a miracle that everyone just participated but completed that race in such abysmal weather. I mean, that was mean, I remember Doha a couple years ago being hot, but Sapporo was hot and humid, a lot like what we have here in
Well,
Florida.
yeah. So Doha was also pretty humid. I guess like the wet bulb was like super high there, and it was like over 40 Celsius, so it was like 100, almost 100 degrees, and then it was also humid, and that was at like midnight or something. So that was should have been a good run through for most athletes, and I think that's what most people did, especially in the walks. Like a lot of the people took the heat very seriously, but in the marathons you had like a lot more DNFs. So it
I was
was
amazed when I looked up the men's.
yeah,
How many
I think the
DNFs in
men's
the men's
marathon had
race?
30 DNFs. So
And that was a legitimate. That's a field that would have done well potentially in like Boston, New York,
yeah,
Chicago,
yeah, like you put them in
Berlin.
London or something. Like the attitude is just like very much we were talking with like Alphine and stuff and Sally, and they're like, yeah, a lot of the East Africans will just kind of have their mind set on a pace, and then a lot of them will just kind of go at it. And that's what happens a lot in the race walk
Yeah.
too. And then you add the Olympic factor in there where like I think Molly said, she's like, what, fuck it, I'm gonna go for a medal, so like
She's like, why not?
yeah, so it's like, you end up with like a lot of people with that mentality, and then the vast majority of them are gonna like blow up, so like that's what makes those like performances so incredible when they don't. So
Yeah.
I've got a funny, interesting question. I heard one of the for you, Robin. I heard one of the commentators say you've got what is it, 53 wigs? Is that
Uh,
true?
yeah, yes, it's true. I actually accumulated 3 more during quarantine because of my sister. So I need to update that. But
yeah, well we
Okay,
had a
okay, strike that. 56 wigs.
yeah.
well, yeah, and it was really funny because I don't watch a lot of TV. Like the only time I watch is like around the Olympics, and like if Nick's watching something or family's watching something, I might tune in. So I hadn't seen Schitt's Creek, but I was talking to Allie, with Allie on the Run, and she was telling me because she had read about that, and she's like, "Have you seen Schitt's Creek?" And I'm like, "No, but I hear a lot of people talk about it." So she highly advised me check it out before I left for Tokyo, and I checked it out, and it just is hilarious because the lady has all her wigs everywhere, and mine aren't like that. I keep them in in the plastic. Because you don't want the hair to get ruined, so I keep them in the cases that I buy them in, and then they're in my closet. Now, I mean, where I used to live in Mountain View, I would always have them in my carrier so that anytime I had a project or productions, I just threw them in my car, and I always had whatever hairstyle I needed or color I needed. So that's why I have them. But the way she has them in Schitt's Creek on the walls is how my shoes were. I used to I have a huge collection of like costume shoes, or like not costume shoes because then people think of cosplay. More of a like haute couture, like like that kind of design
Like
stuff.
events.
So like events. So like I would have my heels hanging from the top of like how your medals are behind you, but it would be shoes like like the heels hanging from it. And so this kind of reminded me of that. And then my wigs would be in these like Trader Joe bags in their plastic cases, like casings stacked up high, like nicely, I'd keep them like so that they don't get all knotted up and stuff because you have to do that. And then anytime I got called for a job, because I would do like promotional modeling and work with the local radio stations there, Mix 106 and Live 105, and I worked for Velodyne for a little while, doing events, and so I was just basically on call. And so then if I didn't have time between my day job and later it was training in 2015-16, I would just always have my bag ready of wigs so that I'd have my hair done.
Hey, you know what you should have done for the race is put like an ice pack in each one of your wigs and change it every kilometer.
That's smart thinking. Like, I should do that just for fun for one of the races, just for, just because everybody now knows about the wigs. Like, just bring them all.
Although now you would be
Then
sure
I might get ruined.
although now you would
Look
surely
wild when you change hats. So
Yeah.
like you change wigs, man, they'd go crazy.
although now you would be surely although now you would surely be disqualified.
Oh, I'll master it,
Yeah.
I mean, like Evan dumping,
they might be cricket on me, but
Yeah.
I mean, like Evan dumping like changed his stockings every pit stop. Like you couldn't change wings every
was
kilometer.
Evan really changing his socks?
No stockings.
He was?
At least that's what I was seeing. Like no, like they put like no, like the Canadians wore like stockings with ice packs during the.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like
At least those don't have to be perfectly centered, though. Like with the wig, you got to get the part just right, or you look like a crazy woman.
Yeah, we'll swap hats.
Yeah.
We're gonna just have the ice pack in the hat next time.
But that just sounds fun, though, because I have a whole bunch of colors, and I love colors. So like maybe like bright colors and stuff. So like maybe for one of the fun races,
Yeah.
one that's not as important,
Yeah.
I'll do that just for you, Dylan. I'll do it just for you.
And then it's gonna be your new Twitter to go picture.
Yeah.
That will be the Halloween fun run, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. In October we have a pretty important. Well, depending on when we do our, they still have to do the 35K nationals for the men. We had ours earlier. The women had ours earlier, and then we haven't decided if we're gonna do another 35K for the women just to get a qualifying time for Worlds, or a 20K just to get some fast times, because none of us have had an opportunity to have like a fast 20K this year. So
actually,
we'll
the
see.
20
but that might be in October, November.
The 20 would actually be perfect.
To do the wig thing?
No, the 20 would be perfect because your 20K pace would be our 35K pace.
Yeah. Why I assume that we should do it. I mean, I know Maria would like a fast 20K as well. Anyway, now we're just talking shop.
Yeah, sorry.
So congrats on completing the race walk in Sapporo, and we wish you all the best, not just this year, but going forward, and to see you guys kicking some serious tail in the future.
Oh, thank you.
You.